Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bueno? Okay, my name is Jed Emerson, and I am really here just as eye candy to introduce a woman who is a pioneer in responsible AI investing. She was the first U.S. envoy on AI under the Biden administration, and has done some phenomenal work in terms of how to use this technology in ways that not only can generate talking pictures of dogs, but can also be used and structured for something that actually can achieve some good in the world as well. So I give you Dr. Rumman Chowdhury.
Thank you.
Please.
All right. Let's see if I can. I've never done a talk sitting before. It's going to be really interesting. Well, I know a lot of people in the room are investors, and often impact investors are really thinking about how to be involved in the AI conversation. And maybe you've heard some topics where people have a really big story to spin about doom and gloom, right? AI is going to kill us all, 20% chance of all of us dying. If it's built, then the world is over. And I'm here to present maybe a slightly different perspective as somebody who is an expert in that field. So we are at an inflection point, right? We do see investment in artificial intelligence really skyrocketing, and we're seeing unicorns being built almost every day by smaller and smaller teams, accelerated by this technology, building this technology. But simultaneously, we are also seeing these risks really blow up, and it's reflected in the data. You'll see something like 90% of all companies are investing in enterprise AI, but you'll also see that 95% of pilots at these companies fail to scale. So what's that gap? That gap is actually in safety, security, and responsible use evaluations. So here's where, this is my pitch to you as impact investors. So I'm going to talk about the what, which I just framed a bit. Then I'll talk about the why, and then I'll talk to you a bit about the how. Right? So I'm not just here to talk about my startup. I'm actually here to talk to you about my career mission, my life mission. So I've been in the field of responsible AI for almost a decade. I was hired as Accenture's first responsible AI lead. At that time, most people who did my work were academics, thought leaders, and lots of sitting on panels talking about trolley problems and paperclip maximizers. Remember that era? Yeah, so that was when I got into the field. But of course, I was at Accenture, and our job is not to sit on panels. Our job is to build solutions, which I love. I'm a data scientist by background. So I really had to think about what does it mean to build a technology responsibly? What are the defining characteristics? So I want to present to you like a thesis that's maybe a little bit different from what you've heard. A lot of impact investors invest in what I call the AI for good. AI for good is very needed in the world. I often call it like charitable AI, right? So it's AI that's improving our lifespan. It's AI that's improving education. It's AI that's mitigating climate impact. And all that's very, very necessary. And that is actually very different from being in the room changing how AI is being built. So responsible AI, and that's the field that I have been in, is about fundamentally making the development of AI more responsible, secure, safe, and ethical. And we are avoiding these scenarios where one can make viruses that spread all over the world or create deepfakes that destabilize democracies, because all of those are possible. All of those are not necessarily the way the world is heading. And the people in this room are the people who are actually thinking about technology in the way that is needed to shape the trajectory in a positive way. So responsible AI thinks a lot about ethically sourced data. It thinks about how models are being built. It's thinking about these bigger questions of systemic impact, and where a lot of that can come in is not just in the development of the infrastructure, but also how these models are being tested and evaluated. Now, AI safety and security has historically been underinvested in, right? So you talk to anybody in cybersecurity, they will grumble to you for an hour about how much money can go into software development and how little is spent testing at software for robustness. Talk to any lawyer in data privacy, and they will say the same thing for you, that systems are built, databases are built, everyone's super excited to spend money on compute and data and models, but no one's going to spend the money on privacy, security, and responsible use. But again, the difference between that 90% of companies are investing AI, but 95% of startups fail to scale, that's where that comes in. It's a significant investment in safe, secure, and responsible use. So a couple of the what. So number one, Responsible AI is often conflated with compliance, and it's not compliance. Actually, much, much bigger than that. It is a story about product readiness. So whether or not ChatGPT performs well on benchmarks is not an indicator of how it performs in the real world. And we just saw that happen a few months ago. Sam Altman one day is telling us we're going to have a PhD student in our pockets, and the next day he's being trolled on Twitter because it can't seem to make a map of the United States, right? Something that hopefully, an American student can do. We've also seen it, when it came to the Devin coding bot last year, which blew away all the software engineering benchmarks. And remember, we had a whole conversation of whether all engineers will be out of a job, whether programming is even going to be a profession. And yet, what they found when the Devin tool launched was that it was unable to consistently perform well in basic engineering tasks. And I'm going to actually just put a finer point on that. The issue is not pure performance, right? Technology will improve. That is basically a given how much is being invested, how many brilliant minds are putting their minds behind it. That's not the issue. The issue is actually consistency. So the problem with the Devin chatbot the coding bot was not that it did not perform all the tasks well. It's that it did not perform any particular task consistently. Now, why am I harping on consistency? So when you work with Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies, or any company that's scaling a technology, right, they need to understand what the risk space looks like. And again, risk is not just compliance. Risk can be reputational risk, it's strategy risk, it's consumer risk. And right now, it's hard for a company to figure out if they can spend billions of dollars scaling an AI technology and not be on the cover of every newspaper tomorrow making fun of them for some small gaffe or weird thing their AI model did. And what these companies clearly want to do is invest in AI, but they want to understand what the outcome will be. And we know that no technology is without risk, right? There's no such thing as zero risk. What people want is a consistent understanding of what the performance of their product will be in market. And this is, again, where responsible AI comes in. So, differentiating responsible AI and AI for good. So as I mentioned, there's a fundamental opportunity for impact investors to change the trajectory of the development of AI rather than sit and wait for AI to be built and try to add on for good at the end of it. So why am I saying this? A few years ago, my nonprofit, I started Humane Intelligence first as a nonprofit. And we launched actually around the same time ChatGPT pretty much revolutionized and put us in the generative AI era. And specifically, the revolution of ChatGPT, yes, it was transformer-based technology, but Attention Is All You Need was written 8 years ago at this point. That was not the revolution. The revolution was that we took this technology that was inaccessible to most people, and they put it on an interface that looked like a chat. So the revolution was actually in design and accessibility, not just the technology. And I looked at that and I said, well, if anybody can then interact with the technology, then that means really anybody should have a right to evaluate the technology. And that's pretty much what I built as a nonprofit. So Humane Intelligence, the nonprofit, had two missions. One, it's to create the independent community of algorithmic evaluators. And I'm going to emphasize independent. In order to have a balanced market, we need people with the skill set to test these models who are not just paid by the model evaluators. Now, people who work at these companies have a really important job. Like I used to have that job at Twitter. You need to evaluate your own models in-house, but you need to be balanced by people who are not on their payroll, who are independent, who are working in the public good, who are able to access and evaluate. So one, build that community of practice, right? Two, bring in impacted communities and expertise. So what does that mean? As a nonprofit, we ran red teaming exercises and evaluation exercises with architects at Adobe on the future of creativity and intellectual property. We did that 3 years ago. We've run evaluation exercises with teachers and students on ed tech models and whether or not it impedes a student's ability to learn. And what's amazing is we did all that with not just a focus on finding problems, but with fixing the model. So every single time we've run these evaluations, we work with the model owners, and we provided the feedback specifically targeted for them to improve the products they're building, because that's actually the world we want, right? The world we want to build is an AI-enabled world, but one that's built positively and inclusively. And that's what's led to the for-profit. So I incorporated the Public Benefit Corporation earlier this year because, to be honest, last year we had so much demand for the work we did. My team, I realized at the end of the year, had stepped foot on every single human-populated continent more than once just to run evaluations and work with companies. So clearly there was a need for the kind of infrastructure to scale up this work. And in order to help the people who wanted to do this as a profession, and there are more and more of them, we needed to create an environment for them to do that. And that's what we've done. So we've built the end-to-end infrastructure that allows for everything from crafting a design, working with an expert, but also we're making the tools so that we're not just operating at human scale, we're operating at AI scale. So the big issue we're tackling is actually a fundamental issue in the AI evaluations market right now. Either you can hire an expert and spend 3 months evaluating your model, and it's super in-depth, and you got a lot of feedback, but it's really difficult to do in a repeated fashion, it's hard to do in a scalable fashion, or you can use benchmarks, you can use out-of-the-box tools, which scale super quickly, you can run them across hundreds of models, but they are not answering your specific questions. So what we're solving is that unmet need of quality and scale, and again, with the goal of making better, more robust, safe, and secure models. So we need to move beyond post-deployment and just focusing on AI for good to fundamentally changing how we think about how AI models are being built. What's really interesting is, as I've mentioned, this goes underinvested in the traditional marketplace, and yet the fastest growing unicorn in tech history, by the way, is an AI evaluations company. It's Mercor. Literally the fastest growing unicorn in tech history. So this is a major market need. And again, it's not just the model owners, it's every single Fortune 100 company, every company out there, and even the startups that you may already be funding that want to scale up and have bigger partners, but demonstrate that their tools can operate consistently, that they're performing as expected, and you have good assurance. So how do we do this? So one is what we introduced as the nonprofit is a practice called red teaming. Red teaming is a method of evaluation that started off actually in the military and is used in cybersecurity. And what you do in red teaming is you bring in outside experts to basically test the upper limits of your models. So cybersecurity red teamers will do things like try to break past your firewall, try to poison your data, etc. In responsible use, we focus actually on unintended consequences, and not just malicious actors. So we have malicious actors. There could be hackers trying to hack into your AI system, trying to manipulate it. Most of the problems in scaling technology don't necessarily come from the hackers. They actually come from regular people trying to use the technology and then having an outcome that was unexpected or bad. A good example of this is an Air Canada AI chatbot was claiming to have policies that the company would refund tickets that they didn't have. And at the end of the day, the company was responsible for adhering to what the chatbot had said, even though it was completely wrong. So by the way, you may hear that AI models hallucinate. The hallucination of these models is not a flaw. It is by design of how these large language models work. They are information synthesis machines. They don't understand the context of the conversation. They're pulling together complex sentences. It is not understanding whether what it is saying is right or wrong. So you actually have to really rigorously test these models to ensure they're not doing things like making up policies your company doesn't have. And again, the consistency of this is really what everybody's looking for. The next step is we actually have worked with people all around the world. And what's amazing, this is my favorite part, we actually work with people who are not AI experts, people who have been in education. I mentioned architects, scientists. Every single time we bring them into the room, they're sort of scared of the technology because they've heard a lot of the doom and gloom. Everybody in Silicon Valley is smarter than you. AI is smarter than you. I have a whole talk I give on something I call moral outsourcing, where the language of AI is written in a way that humans are not part of the process. Because we say things like, AI is smarter than a lawyer, or AI does this, and AI is going to replace teachers. AI doesn't actually do anything a person did not tell the AI to do. So at the end of the day, there's a human there, but we write the sentence as if AI has intent when it doesn't. So these people will come into a room and they'll say, I'm not an AI person. I'll say, great, I don't want you to be an AI person. You need to be a scientist. You need to be a teacher. You need to be who you are in this room, in this evaluation. So here's my favorite part of we did a red teaming exercise with the Royal Society in London on scientific mis and disinformation, a topic that is incredibly important and touches climate, touches health, touches really every field, right? And these scientists first, and I've seen this in this arc over and over again. They'll come in, they're kind of intimidated by the technology because they've not really used it. And then they get their hands on it. And when human beings have this amazing capacity, when they find problems, they want to fix them. So what they'll do is they'll go in, and I teach them how to red team. We give them the strategies for breaking the model. And they go and they break the model. And then instead of being discouraged by this, which you would imagine, oh, they're finding all these flaws. Actually, what happens is they're like, oh, you know what? I think I know how I could make this better. And then we start to see human agency, because the doom and gloom narratives, the worst thing about them is it tells us to look away. It tells us that there's nothing you can do. What I'm trying to do is create an environment where everybody has a right to be able to put their hands on technology and say, here's how I want it built for me. So I have a TED Talk I gave last year on the right to repair. And the right to repair, for any of the OG tech people, that's a phrase you've heard for quite some time. And there's long-standing been a community within tech that says that if I'm paying for a technology, or if a technology is influencing my life, I have the right to actually say, here's how I want this used in my life. So the right to repair narrative comes from farmers who have hacked their tractors in order to subvert the AI system so that they can go and do their livelihood. They can grow crops rather than have this machine tell them what they can and cannot do. And I think that right should extend to regular people. So one of the reasons to make the Public Benefit Corporation is to put that technology into corporations' hands so they can build and scale what they're doing, and also create this independent community so that there are people that are actually portraying a wider range of values than just the few people, frankly, like myself. There's really a small community of people who do this work. So we only have a few minutes left. But I want to close with a really important definition that I want all of you to take away with. One is techno-solutionism, and the other is techno-optimism. Techno-solutionism is what Silicon Valley sells. And techno-solutionism is the idea that AI will solve all of our problems, and don't worry about it, ... prosperity, right? That's not the way forward. It's actually techno-optimism. And techno-optimism is something very, very different. Techno-optimism tells us that AI is a tool that can be used for good, but it's up to us as people to drive it in the right direction, whether you are a builder like me or an investor like you, or a person with an expertise in some field like all of the people that we work with. And with that, thank you very much. I think we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, well, basically, that was a really beautiful overview of the space, the issues, how to think about this. For people who want to deploy capital, what do the deals look like? What are the investable opportunities within this area of responsible AI?
Yeah, I mean, there are actually quite a lot of startups being built in the evaluation space. I touched on a few. It is actually it's a small but growing part of the industry, and I think as people are trying to scale up the technology, they're realizing that this is a big market gap. So we're seeing tooling being built. What I'm building is infrastructure, and there are other companies that are actually connecting, creating like marketplaces for individuals who have the expertise to link to what's being built. We also have a couple of folks. So we have Frederick and Eirik from Renaissance Fund, and we also up there, and we also have Wilhelm from Astralis. And if you are interested in learning more, we will be having a conversation up in the Red Room for folks who want to have a deeper discussion.
Conveniently scheduled right now.
So
we're going to take our break and roll our conversation up there. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.